Good afternoon, friends. David Wright here, and I am your host of the Disruptive Innovators Champions of Digital Business podcast. Exciting weekend going into the Bills versus Chiefs games that I'll be at. And to boot, this afternoon I am joined by Farnaz Ronaghi. Farnaz, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I know it's been a little bit in the making here. Farnaz, for those of our listeners who might not be familiar with your body of work, could you just tell everybody a little bit about your current role?
Yeah, I'm currently the CTO of NovoEd, an edtech company that I started with my PhD advisor, Amin Saberi, back at Stanford University's Social Algorithms Lab. NovoEd started from a curious research question, seeking to understand whether we can offer a project-based cohort course online to people from all over the world. And it has since expanded to be an enterprise-grade platform that serves exec ed in universities, it serves training companies, it also serves large enterprises.
That's super exciting. And I'm excited to dive more into it for sure. Before anything though, Farnaz, as a lot of our listeners know, we like to just start, if there was one piece of actionable advice you might look to leave everyone with today, what might that be?
Yeah, wow. You're getting into the most important part, I guess, right away. So I thought I would focus my actionable advice on something that's necessary for innovation, and that's prototyping. There's so many books written about prototyping. We always say a picture is worth 1,000 words. We always say show, don't tell. But I just want to share with our listeners today that prototyping ideas has become exponentially easier than ever before in the past bunch of months with AI tools. It should no longer be a time-consuming activity. It should not need an engineer. It should not need a designer who can work with whatever design tool of their choice to build it for you. So my advice is for everyone to spend time on experimenting with these tools, learn how to accelerate their path to communicating ideas, experimenting with them, and even solve small problems with just what AI is producing. And my favorite tool in this area is called Replit. It used to be an engineer's only type of tool, but these days it just looks like anyone can describe an application, a prototype for it, and it can build it pretty well.
Wow. That's super cool. And I can attest to the value that we've been seeing from the advancements of these tools. And, we're not programmers per se, but, getting a lot of value. And I love the concept of prototyping or creating a visual representation of an idea, because I'm a very visual learner myself, as it happens. But, so yeah, we like to come out the gate, firing on all cylinders for us. So thank you for that. To now kind of take a step back for a moment, maybe you could share with everyone just a little bit more about yourself, kind of how you started out and how you got to the position that you're in today.
Yeah, I'm a computer scientist by training, a proud graduate of Sharif University of Technology in Tehran, Iran. So I've been in the US for the past, 14 years, I guess. I came to Stanford University for grad school. I think in the 2 years of my master's, I worked with probably 6 different research groups and faculty members, but I just hadn't found my passion yet at the end of the master's. The best thing to do for me was to start a PhD and explore more with the energy that campus has. So in the second year of the PhD, I found my joy in building products. And one of them became NovoEd, my current company. Generally, I come from a family of educators, generation after generation, and, my role is technology and product focused. But the core of it has always been in making education more equitable one way or another for the audiences that I am working with. Yeah. And I don't know how I've got here personally. We just all come from different walks of life. For me, a lot of hard work, a lot of luck, and the love and the dedication of a very supportive family and the colleagues and mentors. I cannot say enough about, for example, my PhD advisor and some of our investors and others who have really helped me become who I am today.
I've been really excited about this because my mom's nonprofit, which our listeners have heard me talk about before, they launched a for-profit arm of their organization that has been taking a trauma-informed care model, and basically they came up with kind of a course that they take to schools and hospitals and different institutions to train organizations on how to spot it in their children and colleagues, and how to not that they're going to become doctors and treat these folks, but, particularly like I think of in the example of a school, you have a child who is suffering from, traumatic situations in the home. It's not a safe space for them. So when they come to school, their teachers are the first line of defense. They spend more time with them than anyone else. So again, not for the teacher to be able to clinically treat the student, but to just go a little layer deeper in noticing and helping these students connect with the resources that they need early on in life, such that they don't end up turning to self-harm or substance use or whatever as coping mechanisms for problems that their minds just aren't equipped to solve at that age. So anyway, like I'm very excited about, like, because I think an LMS platform or kind of like a platform like you've created that I like just in my mind kind of put in that category might be perfect for that. So
yeah, indeed, in that category, exactly as you say. And yes, that's fascinating. And truly, some of our clients are exactly nonprofits and large scale ones. And I haven't checked whose name I can say and I cannot, so I'm not going to mention names. But with social missions that require essentially upskilling others. And some of them are focused on actually teachers as well. So definitely, I agree.
yeah, when I was looking at your website, like one of the reasons I brought it up was because I got the vibe of how mission-based you guys were, or how like, yes, it's a platform, yes, it's a form of software, but like how in alignment you are with the different organizations that you serve. That was really clear in everything. So again, I do want to dive more into NovoEd, but before we do, like we like to talk a little bit more about kind of things that you learned over the course of your journey. Obviously, super well educated, immigrated to the United States, have now accomplished all these amazing things. What would you say is one of the most important things that you learned over the course of your journey, Farnaz, either, personally or professionally? And if you could think about like kind of life before you learned it and life after, in framing that, just curious if anything would come to mind.
Okay, I think something that applies both to personal life and professional life is that every conversation, especially the uncomfortable ones, can be turned into a learning conversation if we approach it with curiosity. And, many times we don't realize how our confirmation bias, our potential tendencies to control the outcome or optimize for efficiency, or so many other things are getting in the way of listening fully and getting genuinely curious. And, I've seen other people that in these types of situations would turn into someone who's just trying to deliver a message as opposed to having a two-way conversation. That's what's really the most important. And it just makes communication happen much faster, be less burdensome, and more bring togetherness. And I think that without that skill set, without that mindset in team members, in companies, agility and innovation just become much harder to flourish. And it's also really powerful in client work, in building trust with clients. When we are doing, when we're working with enterprise SaaS, oftentimes for a growing company, the customers that we're serving are much larger than us, are much more mature than us. And as a result of just like many, many difficult situations that we walk into with clients. And the only way to find the best and, fastest path forward is to get genuinely curious, not be afraid, and ask those deeper questions. And it makes everything faster.
Love that. A few things I take away from that. One would be getting genuinely curious. For me, implies a level of humility in not knowing, right? It's like I'm giving permission to myself to just like stay open to the possibility of learning something new. And I think for a type A entrepreneur like myself, that was something that had to be learned because my will and self-propulsion got me places, right? But then in order to level up, like in scaling a company or driving innovation, true innovation, I had to develop new skills. So that I just had a similar experiences, and same thing with difficult conversations, right? Like, I mean, it just was something that I had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, it's okay that I'm uncomfortable in a given moment. Like, and I think you kind of mentioned this to a certain extent, but my biggest moments of personal and professional growth have come from or out of my moments of the most discomfort that I've ever felt in my life.
Exactly. And it's the same for everyone. It's the same for everyone. Yes.
Yeah. So great learnings there. What about Farnaz, time that you were challenged or you had a project fail? So kind of like in the same vein of like the discomfort, like, so something that like, it was something adverse that you had to overcome, but ultimately you took away a lesson from it, or something that has served you now as you've gone on.
The challenges are always very many in the journey of building a company and bringing growth, right? And that's exactly where the opportunities come from. But particularly for me, they have been in the area of leadership. And as you say, being a founder, especially like where I started from, it was a single person writing code so fast and on the fly and serving. From day one, there are 80,000 people on this platform that has nothing. It just builds a certain level of, we have to go fast, a certain level of confidence, a certain level of, what other ways can we do this? It's obvious we should just do it. And action orientation and focus and area to action, that can be a very big blocker as the team becomes from the 3 to the 5 to the 5 to the 20. The behaviors have to be different. So for me, I have learned my lessons of leadership in a hard way, when I've burned out, when I've seen my team burned out, when I've seen my team not empowered, not feeling that they are the ones who are owning, not feeling that they are the ones making the decisions. So those have been the toughest ones for me. I've just found the answer in changing the way that I'm interacting with the environment around myself and building that space for others.
Yeah, no, that's it's crucial. So that's a good one. I want to talk more about NovoEd, Farnaz. Before we do, actually, I always like to ask favorite book or literary piece. Could even be a podcast, but something that you've been listening to or reading recently, or all-time dealer's choice.
Oh yeah, maybe I mentioned three different audiences relevant to disruption and innovation. Well, one of them is just relevant to what we've been talking about so far. Favorite book, Difficult Conversations, How to Discuss What Matters Most. It's just so helpful in personal life and professional life. It just gives a framework for kind of like listening in between the lines and really having the conversation that needs to be had with an open mind, with the ability to do that, especially when things are getting tough. That one's an all-time favorite. Then these days, with my team at NovoEd, with our product and design team, we have been doing a book club focused on continuous discovery habits. So much of what has to happen is through that journey of iteration, and many times teams look at that as, oh, let's pump up the machine for, validating ideas or validating assumptions and pump it back down and get into execution and back up again. And that just doesn't work. It has to be a flow of every week. There has to be client conversations happening with different simple questions. And this book, I just think that does a very good job of giving a framework for that and a common language for everyone who has to participate in it, client success, product and design. And then lastly, there's a book called The Joy of Agility, written by essentially a CTO, an engineer. I just, it just shows that it talks about the beautiful art that is agility. Agile is not just a framework. It's not a process. Agile doesn't mean rushing. It actually means being poised, being graceful, knowing when you need to pause and think more and when you really need to go fast, enough. And I really have found that book to be helpful in contextualizing the behaviors of agility, and not just for engineers, but for everyone, because examples come from, I don't know, how the first airplane was created to tech companies.
I love that. What was the second book called?
The Continuous Discovery Habits, Teresa Torres.
Okay, got it. It's funny because as you were describing it, I was thinking about the Phoenix Project. Gene Kim's a good friend of mine, and he has a nice framework. Too. Yeah, and he also, in one of his latest books, coined the term slowification, which is like being in an agile methodology, but knowing when to slow down to speed up. Right. So it's kind of
beautiful.
Funny, but yeah. So Farnaz, so NovoEd, right? So we've talked about it a little bit, but tell me and our audience a little bit more about your vision for the organization, kind of derived from your overall mission, and maybe even like some of the key initiatives that you guys are focused on.
Yeah, well, NovoEd has been a learning platform for enterprises, for exec ed, for training companies for the past several years as enterprise, essentially software as a service. Recently, we have been working on making it a more comprehensive talent development platform. As you mentioned, learning management systems. Every company has one of those. Every company has some form of an HR, also human capital management system or HR information system. But a ton of these types of software are focused on the pipes in the back end, the record keeping, the checks and balances. Those are really necessary for enterprises, right? You cannot forget about them. You cannot leave them behind. But at the same time, development is becoming a tertiary goal, if at all, in these types of platforms. So our focus has always been on the development side. The type of learning that we want to deliver should result in a change of behavior. And that's what we really do with our clients. So it has to be experiential. It has to involve learning from other people, from their mindset, the way they solve the problem, the same problem. It has to include feedback and ways that people can improve. So those are just count those three as the core components of impactful learning that people have been delivering successful results with on NovoEd. So I see us in the future making that 10x easier to design, build, and deploy and facilitate this kind of learning. So our clients right now have skilled instructional designers, learning and development program managers who build online learning experiences on our platform, and then they deploy them, they facilitate them. But that work involves a ton of sometimes repetitive tasks, but also sometimes just grunt work that the machine has gotten good at. So what we are doing is augmenting the L&D teams we serve, augmenting their staff with intentional AI assistance that helps them with instructional design, with content development, with giving feedback, and different aspects of facilitation. Might that be, detecting who's falling behind? Might that be automatically nudging? Might that be delivering that nudge within a system that is in the flow of work? So those are the types of things that we are focusing on these days. And a bunch of them are on production, a bunch of them are in the hands of our clients. But, just to scratch the surface of what's possible, and there's going to be more and more of it happening. Yeah, and so that's where the focus has been.
Got it. No, very cool. What about challenges that you guys have faced as a company? So like outside of you as a leader, but like, what are some of the biggest challenges facing either NovoEd specifically or companies in your industry? Just curious to learn more.
Yeah, SaaS, especially the enterprise SaaS, has become just harder and harder over the years. Cloud made it exponentially easier for everyone to launch software. And now AI capabilities are becoming just as ubiquitous. So I no longer think that traditional SaaS, meaning, UI and workflows on top of the company's data are cutting it. They are not enough. And see that our end users, our clients have a lot less time and patience for work that they may find non-strategic. And so that's a good challenge and opportunity. Additionally, enterprises are moving away. There was just a SaaS boom that happened. Enterprises bought a lot of smaller scale niche software for different types of work that needs to happen. There is a movement right now in the very opposite direction, and it has been going on for a few years, getting more out of the current tools I have. Enterprises no longer look at, oh, this team needs that tool, let's buy it. They look at it the same way I look at my backend infrastructure, a technology stack, and what are the pieces I have and what are the pieces I miss. And that piece should be horizontal enough and big enough and do well enough in that area that I would pay for it and deploy it for my audience. So it's also has been an interesting change that we see a lot of consolidation happening in our industry as a result of it.
No, it's really insightful, both those comments, and I'm glad that you brought it up because we have seen that too, kind of organizations looking to enterprise platforms that they are gonna leverage no matter what. Like, a perfect example is like Microsoft. So people really leaning into everything Microsoft can do versus just using it for the classic Office suite, or same thing goes with ERP or whatever. And but it also begs the opportunity, because we talk about also best of breed where appropriate. Like, well, that's part of our talk track. And like for someone like you guys, the things that you are looking to solve for and augment your platform with are going to be, unique. There are things that you're not going to find in a classic HRIS platform. And so that's what opens up the opportunity. I feel like, so long as, things are priced appropriately, to be something that augments and improves and proves out ROI and all of those things,
Exactly. And that's a mindset. And we see that in 3 areas. We see it in what has been our bread and butter, essentially, and our main expertise: upskilling in structured learning, cohorts, self-directed, but even self-directed is like asynchronously social. People are still exposed to opportunities to apply knowledge, to practice in a safe space, to receive feedback and all of that, as well as mentoring, learning from either peers who could be in another part of the organization and expand. I'm a support person. I don't understand why these engineers ask so much of how to reproduce an issue. Like, why do they need this? And breaking those silos, bridging those gaps are the type of thing that can happen in one-on-one mentoring programs, or learning from subject matter experts, and the fact that every leader should really should have and demonstrate mentoring skills. It's just part of the job. So creating those opportunities for those leaders. And lastly, in practice and role play, there is just not the client-facing team members in a company have to be accurate and knowledgeable about the company's services and products, but they also need to do that aligned with the company's brand, how the company is supposed to feel to its customers, right? And those types of things, they become behavioral, and it's just much easier to deliver them, deliver that learning and upskill people with having them practice their response and role play with different situations, recorded scenarios that are coming from the field, from the call center software, and have them receive feedback on a bunch of things that the machine can give feedback to them, and bring their manager's attention in upskilling them and giving them that next level of pointers on how to improve. So it's kind of the three areas that we see both intentionality, scale, and differentiation from what the HR and L&D type of LMS and HRIS software can deliver.
Very cool. Are there any, with the advent of AI, I mean, you said it yourself when we started at the episode, about the impact that it's having on prototyping and things like that. With AI or blockchain, or is there any innovative technologies that you're excited about the impact that it will have on NovoEd?
Yeah, I think that I think that besides what I find to be the baseline, which is assistance for crafting, curating content, and for facilitating and delivering it and giving feedback and stuff like that, I think that AI is going to change the way employees also learn. The expectations, I think the attention span of just us as a society, as a humanity, is just decreasing over time. We really want the 1 minute. Tell me in 1 minute. But there are many things that cannot be told in 1 minute, or can be learned from a tweet. So intentional learning, intentional kind of like a structured learning, I think that it will still have a strong place in the future, but it just needs to be delivered more in the moment of need, more in the flow of work. The problem is not the fact that this thing is, lengthy or takes too much effort. The challenge oftentimes in employee development is that the development is happening now. The job relevant moment that I'm going to need it is going to happen in 4 months, 3 months, I don't know, at some point. Right, and that's more of where I believe that that we are headed with AI solutions, not just personalization, as in, oh, the learner came to a portal, now we're going to recommend content, but more of integration with flow of the work tools. And for me, Microsoft Teams is one of the great ones, because so many enterprises are on it, and there are capabilities of being within that platform, looking at what output of work a learner is producing on 365, for example, and blending it well with content sources that exist on the platform and activities that exist on the platform that could augment that and upskill the learner.
Yeah, I love that, being more predictive. It's like the same thing we're doing with like knowledge management systems, and leveraging natural language understanding over the course of a conversation, and actually surfacing knowledge that's relevant in that moment, as opposed to them having to shuffle through things to find it. Very
Exactly.
cool. Very cool. I kind of categorized you guys in the kind of LMS kind of arena, but either in the LMS arena or the SaaS kind of arena. Farnaz, what do you think will be some of the biggest changes in the industry as time passes here in the next, X number of years, with an understanding that you don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, I think that maybe we've seen how content has been getting more and more commoditized in the past decade. I think that will continue to happen, but good content will still have a place, will still have a role to play. As we see, I'm just constantly surprised by someone picking a new vertical of content and delivering very successful innovation and companies in it. It's fascinating. I don't think that will go away, and it will remain an important area. And then I think that, as we were talking, the more of the intentional learning experiences that are integrated with work, I think they're going to be more of the modality that people are going to be tuning in. We hear from our L&D teams that, yes, they have to create learning and development based on the proprietary knowledge, know-how of the company. But at the same time, they really need to have the right ways of publishing this in so many different ways. And sometimes, the delivering of a piece it could be very much in the morning before someone is going to go take a sales call, for example. It's a little reminder, it's a little snippet relevant to what's coming up. So more and more kind of like intelligence from what people are actually doing within their day, and then what part of the company's specific know-how could help them do that better or be more successful within their day. And so I think that our industry has to move towards that direction. Learning and development and in HR, we've been having conversations about the skills and skills development maybe for the past 5 years, stronger than ever before. And there are companies who are the talent experience platforms. They create these skill taxonomies and want to basically have measurements of people and skills. How good is Farnaz in this skill? Has she developed it or not? But then the problem is the data that's being fed into these systems is it's very binary, and it's towards kind of like, has Farnaz seen content relevant to this skill? It's not whether she has done something in it or whether she has any kind of demonstrated success. And I also think that companies like NovoEd, companies who are going to be focusing on actually building skills and also assessing them in a way that is not so content focused, more towards show that you can, are going to play a role in making the enterprise data for upskilling a lot more stronger. So as we know, if you feed nothing into AI, it will produce nothing. So if we have machine learning and whatnot for skilling on top of data that says nothing but the fact that someone has just watched a video in an area or gone through a module that were a bunch of videos and quizzes, and it won't really help us develop our workforce. So I believe that those sources of data have to become stronger in the next bunch of years. And I think that's good.
No, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, I got my wheels turning. I was just curious, do any of your customers white label or like license NovoEd from you guys? Does that happen? Like where they're...
Yes and no, not white label, but yes, we have had customers with customized domains, but NovoEd is always in the back. The URL may have NovoEd, but it's always the customer's brand. And there are our exec ed customers or very well-known consultancies that do good work for their clients, but then their clients want to know their approach. Or the approach they deliver, the organizational transformation they deliver involves a lot of training and development. They all essentially become powered by NovoEd. Yes.
Interesting. Well, very cool stuff, Farnaz. This has been amazing. I learned a ton. Last question we just like to end with is, if you could go back 5, 10, 15 years in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say, Failure hurts, but it's the best way to grow. So don't take it for more than what it is. Just learn to fail fast and create the circumstances for your team to also learn fast and fail fast. I think that my younger self took failure really, really seriously. It was always able to move forward, but it is still was holding on to that experience way too tight. It wasn't all that important to hold on to it.
It's great advice. Great way to end the episode. Farnaz, it was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We will catch you all next week.